Only what is thought, said, or done, and a certain rare coincidence is good. Henry David Thoreau. Good evening again. My second show of the night. Now, I know a lot of people don't think of the globe Earth model at all. Heck, they don't even think about this topic at all. Let's get right to it. Alright, so when you type in, make it closer, huh? Who figured out the Earth is round? And again, I like to make sure I type things out on Google. People who start wondering and thinking and questioning, they're going to use Google. They're not going to use DuckDuckGo. They're not going to use anything else. Most likely, they're going to use Google. And they're going to click on the first couple of results provided. They're not going to look at the rest of the 43 million results. I only took 0.44 seconds to come up with. They're going to click on the first three. So, first one that comes up, starchild.gsfc.nasa.gov. Who figured it out? Well, apparently it was the Greeks sometime around 500 BC. So any ancient civilization before that, heck, even around this time, a lot of people believe that the Earth wasn't a globe. So the ancient Maya, what did they think? Well, ancient Maya, Earth shape. You got Maya astronomy, the flat Earth and infinite universe. And we're going to go click on that next. And then the other one is civilization.ca from the history museum.ca. So, what does this one say? Mexican unexplained.com. The Maya practiced naked eye astronomy, as no instruments were used to view the heavens except for crude hollowed out pointing sticks held close to the eye. Certain buildings in ancient Maya cities were arranged to serve as astronomical observatories. The setup usually consisted of a pyramid oriented due east, which was used in conjunction with three temples situated to give the observer on the pyramid staircase points of reference to view sunrises and sunsets, and thus determined the occurrences of the equinoxes and solstices. Archaeoastronomers and modern-day scholars who study astronomical alignment of buildings or settlements often call this sacred geometry. That comes up a lot, doesn't it? Now, oh, I guess I was getting to that. I didn't even need to. With their advanced knowledge of math and ability to make keen observations, the ancient Maya never thought of the Earth as a ball moving in an endless universe. Again, let me repeat. With their advanced knowledge and with their naked eye astronomy, they used no instruments. With their advanced knowledge of math and ability to make keen observations, the ancient Maya never thought of the Earth as a ball moving in an endless universe. The Maya thought that the Earth was the center of all creation, that it existed on a flat plane instead of a sphere spinning through space. Again, the Maya thought that the Earth was the center of all creation and that it existed on a flat plane instead of a sphere spinning through space. The Earth extended into infinity on this endless plane, with layers below making up the underworld and layers above making up the heavens. While some authors claim the Maya believed there were four corners to the Earth, there is nothing uncovered so far to indicate that they believed that the Earth plane ended, only they had four directions, and that somewhere away from the center of the Earth plane off into those directions were symbolic jaguars called bekabs holding up the sky. Each jaguar corresponded to a color: east red, north white, west black, south yellow. We can see an illustration of the four jaguars in the Codex Madrid, one of the surviving bark painted books described earlier. Interesting reading. I may get back to it. Now, Again, the second one, Canadian Museum of History. It was the second result that came up on Google when we're going to see about the ancient Maya earth shape. Cosmology and religion. The ancient Maya believed in recurring cycles of creation and destruction and thought in terms of eras lasting about 5,200 modern years. The current cycle is believed by the Maya to have begun in either 3114 BC or 3113 BC of our calendar and is expected to end in either AD 2011 or 2012. Maya cosmology is not easy to reconstruct from our current knowledge of their civilization. It seems apparent, however, that the Maya believed Earth to be flat and four-cornered. Each corner was located at a cardinal point and had a color value: red for east, white for north, black for west, and yellow for south. I'm going to have to look more into these color schemes. And the center was the color green. Anyways, more of the ancient mythology that we keep running into, right? Coincidence, maybe. Now, let's get to this. All I want you to do is just think about it. Just question things. Just question the idea. Is this just a coincidence? Hey, you could just say that. Keep going on with your own life. Why even keep watching? Okay, so the Maya, where they around that time where they thought that was the the current cycle was thought to begun, and well, the Mayans, they've been here for quite a long time. So they had no instrumentation. They had naked eye astronomy, and based on math alone, and that the Earth wasn't spinning or traveling through an endless universe, that the Earth was flat and it was an endless plane, infinite plane. They still predicted things like a solar eclipse happening in 1991. Maybe they just got lucky. I don't think the Bickers, is that what their names were? The Brickers? I can't remember. I don't think they knew. They thought it was a coincidence. Here, let me just go ahead and read it. This is by Live Science, January 8, 2013. Sorry, by Miriam Kramer, Space.com staff writer. Long Beach, California. The Maya, best known these days for the doomsday they never foretold, may have accurately predicted astronomical phenomena centuries ahead of time, scientists find. A new book, Astronomy in the Maya Codices, American Philosophical Society 2011, which was awarded the Osterbrock Book Prize for Historical Astronomy here at the American Astronomical Society Conference Monday, January 7th, details a series of impressive observations made by Mayan astronomers pre-16th century. Anthropologist, husband-wife team Harvey and Victoria Bricker have devoted their lives to understanding the pre-Columbian Maya and how they understood the world around them. The Brickers conducted most of their work by translating complex hieroglyphics to see what Mayan scribes felt was most important to record on parchment. By decoding early Mayan hieroglyphics from 4 different codices housed in Madrid, Paris, Mexico, and Dresden, the Brickers tracked how the night sky would have looked to the Mayans when they were alive. We're dealing with real data, Harvey Bricker said. They're not just squiggles. The Brickers translated the dates cited in the Mayan calendar to correspond with our calendar and then used modern knowledge of planetary orbits and cycles to line up with the Mayas' data with ours. It was surprisingly accurate. In fact, the Brickers found the astronomical calendar dated to the 11th or 12th century accurately predicted a solar eclipse to within a day in 1991, centuries after the Mayan civilization had ended. The 1991 eclipse occurred on July 11. Surprisingly accurate for flat earthers who didn't use any instruments. They had naked eye astronomy, as mentioned. And they thought that the Earth was an infinite flat plane, and that it wasn't spinning, nor was it traveling through the universe. Yet they're able to actually predict something centuries ahead of time. Is it just lucky guess? You be the judge. All right. Here's another one. Ancient Maya astronomers predicted meteor showers 2 millennia ago. Mayan hieroglyphic inscriptions reveal. This is ancientpages.com, September 12, 2017. Archaeology News, Civilization News. Ellen Lloyd, ancientpages.com. The ancient Maya were good astronomers who could record and interpret every aspect of the sky. They watched various celestial bodies and were more skilled astronomers than many previously thought. And again, they used naked eye astronomy. They had no instrumentation. Not long ago, researchers suggested that the Maya may have linked the timing of such events as royal accessions and wars to astronomical predictions of meteor showers. There is now more evidence showing that the ancient Maya purposefully timed significant occasions to coincidence with portentous celestial events. Ancient Maya hieroglyphic inscriptions reveal knowledge of incoming meteor showers again. Using state-of-the-art computer models, an amateur historian and a professional astronomer have found evidence that many important societal events recorded in Mayan hieroglyphic inscriptions may coincide with outbursts of meteor showers related to Halley's Comet. In a newly published study, the Percent research team has found more than a dozen instances of hieroglyphic records from the Mayan Classic period, which is 250 through 909 CE, indicating that more important events occurred within just a few days of an outburst of Eta Aquarid meteor showers when the celestial displays to the comet. And do I go to Science Direct? Yes. No Mayan astronomical records from that period survived the Spanish invasion, and the 4 surviving Mayan codices from later eras do not mention meteor showers. However, the researchers suspect that many significant historical events that coincided with meteor showers, like a ruler's assumption of power or declaration of war recorded in the codices and carved in stone monuments, are not chance overlaps. The question we must answer is, how is it possible that the ancient Maya, a civilization that meticulously recorded astronomical information about Venus, eclipses, and seasonal patterns, failed to note meteor showers in their astronomical studies? David Asher, an astronomy research fellow at Armagh Observatory in Northern Ireland, and his colleague Hudge Kinsman, an independent scholar of Mayan history and hieroglyphics for nearly 25 years, argue in a science paper that the Maya most likely predicted meteor showers, but the records were lost to us. Modern science answers puzzles from ancient times. Experts in Mayan hieroglyphic astronomy widely acknowledge that the Maya observed and recorded 3 types of common astronomical events during the Classic period: phases of the moon, solar and lunar eclipses, and the movement of Venus. Kinsman and other historians have wondered whether the Maya overlooked meteor showers or if they noted them. Although mentions of the meteor showers themselves are missing from Mayan codices, Kinsman and Asher used computer models that track the motions and interactions of orbiting objects to calculate dates when the Eta Aquarid meteor shower, born from remnants of Halley's Comet, would have been visible to the Maya during the Classic period. They checked their calculated meteor shower dates against Chinese astronomical records. And again, we can probably go into ancient Chinese astronomical predictions. And they've coincided. Against Chinese astronomical records from the same time period. Halley's Comet leaves behind a trail of would-be meteors when it passes by Earth about every 75 years. The comet debris can remain in orbit for hundreds or thousands of years before entering Earth's atmosphere, or may never intercept Earth at all. Asher, an expert in solar system dynamics, explained that when modern astronomers try to predict the positions of small chunks of rock in ice hundreds of years after they broke off from a parent comet, they need a comet whose orbit was well known before the time when you hypothesized that the Maya might have observed the meteor outburst. Halley's Comet fits the bill quite nicely, he added. The comet's remnants produce a very few predictable and large meteor showers, including the Eta Aquarid shower, which is typically observable from April to May across northern to southern mid-latitudes. The Eta Aquarids were the natural choice for research, Kinsman said. All right. A lot of it's just a lot of repeated remarks. I want to actually... anyways, you can probably go ahead and keep looking into it and reading if you want. It's not much more than that. But again, that's the central drift, isn't it? is you've got an ancient civilization that had no instruments, naked eye astronomy, just math and calculations based on, back then, a flat Earth, endless, infinite plane Earth that's not spinning through the universe or moving at vast speeds, nor orbiting the sun, nor spinning again. Let me mention that. Not only are they able to calculate the seasons and solar and lunar eclipses, but they in the movement of Venus, and it's interesting that they chose Venus to track, that they're able to also predict meteor showers for centuries after their civilization went down. Kathy B, you should go visit the ruins. Actually, I did. I went, me and my wife, we visited the Mayan ruins, actually. This is way before I was woke, you could say. I think it was before my kids were born, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. It was quite a sight to see. We loved it. People lived there in poverty, which sucked. But it was a beautiful place. It was... I don't like a lot of the old stories of the sacrifices and things like that, and I wish I would have known a lot of the stuff I did now, but too late about that. That was a trip where my wife, so I introduced her to scuba diving, so she took her scuba diving lessons, her classes here in the US, over in somewhere in Massachusetts near Boston. I forget where exactly. So she took all her classes. She passed. She took her first lessons in a swimming pool, and then we went over to Mexico, in the east side near the I don't know what you would call it, but she did her first outside dive in the cenotes, which is just a hole that just opened up somehow, and it's just fresh water. It's pretty cool, very clear. And then I wish I was fishing back then too, but I didn't. No, I didn't fish. And then she took her first dive off of... Why don't I just look at maps, huh? Let's see. Mexico. It was down in the Yucatan. How can I forget? So we went first to... I think we started in... Were we in Cancun? I don't think so. I think we started in Playa del Carmen. We dove somewhere in one of the cenotes, and we went to Tulum. We took a bus, I think, and we went to Tulum. We saw the ruins and a couple ruins, and then we also did her second dive somewhere off of Tulum. Then we went to Cozumel for a while, and we also dove there. And then we went back home. It wasn't a long trip. I think it was a week or less, but it was very, very... I liked it. I thought it'd be fun to go again. But it's not very safe for family, I would say. I would love to take my kids, but I don't think it's safe for them. Just drug war thing. We saw a lot of military with truckloads of military with assault rifles, and I'm talking automatic assault rifles, not the semi-automatic ones that people seem to think are assault weapons. Every weapon can be considered assault weapon then, but anyways, aside from that, yes, great place to go. Yeah, the water is beautiful. What was great, I think it was in Cozumel. There's a place where, so what happens there is they have these drifts or currents actually, and what the boat does is they drop you off and you're with a guide and you kind of sit at the bottom for a while, and you go and you follow the dive instructor, and the dive instructor kind of get you going into the path of the current, and while the boat leaves, go to where the current would end. So you basically don't have to swim very much. You're just basically carried by the current, and you just get to see a lot of the sights along that current. And I thought that was very awesome. And we segued off of this. Let's go back to ancient Chinese astronomy predictions. Oh, yeah. Tulum was nice. Yeah, so Playa del Carmen, Tulum, and Cozumel. Let's see. Don't see. Oh. Ancient Chinese is predicted. Let's see. I don't think they have anything where it predicted, huh? Every time I always see it's usually Maya or Egyptians, but you know, I'd like to find with Chinese. Let's see. Let's look. Ancient Egyptian astrological predictions. Sciencing.com. And this is the first one. Again, sciencing.com. You can see it here. They don't really state much. Just a lot of esoteric stuff. But here, Egyptian contribution to astrology. The main contribution that Egyptian civilization made to astrology was the decans. Decans are 36 groups of small constellations that rise in order on the horizon every 24 hours. In addition, the Egyptians had devised a calendar of 365 days and broken the year up into 12 months of 30 days each. Astrological signs were attributed to each month and clumped around the 4 seasons. And let's see. Ancient astronomy predictions that came true. They don't really state much, do they? Oh, there's a Harvard one. Access is denied. That's great. Access denied. Isn't that the usual thing that happens right when we're looking for answers? Access denied. Ancient Egyptian predictions. How about that rather than astronomy? Great. Why does that have to go with that? I've already linked into those. All right, here, how about this one? Did ancient peoples really predict solar eclipses? Image NASA. This is image.gsfc.nasa.gov. So let's go ahead and look. Oh, they're going to tell us a lot of stuff here. All right, so did ancient peoples really predict solar eclipses? This is image.gsfc.nasa.gov. Ancient observations of solar eclipses have a long history among many different cultures and civilizations, which stretches back at least 2500 BC in the writings that have survived from ancient China and Babylon. Sorry if I'm kind of messing up with my words and my reading. Ancient Chinese astrologers, yay, by 2300 BC had already had sophisticated observatory buildings, and as early as 2650 BC, Li Shu was writing about astronomy. Observing total solar eclipses was a major element of forecasting the future health and success of the empire. Successes of the emperor. And astrologers were left with the onerous task of trying to anticipate when these events might occur. Failure to get the prediction right in at least one recorded instance in 2300 BC resulted in the beheading of 2 astrologers. Since the pattern of total solar eclipses is a very erratic one in time at a specific geographic occasion, many astrologers no doubt lost their heads. By about 20 BC, surviving documents show that Chinese astrologers understood what caused eclipses, which is interesting. Did they get with the Greeks and know that what caused the eclipses? Because they don't tell us why. And by 8 BC, some predictions of total solar eclipse were made using the 135-month regular occurrence period. By 206 AD, they could predict solar eclipses by analyzing the motion of the moon itself. In the Western world, meanwhile, Babylonian clay tablets that have survived since the time of this civilization in the Mesopotamian region record the first total solar eclipse seen by observers in Ugarit on May 3rd, 1375 BC. Like the Chinese observers, Babylonian astrologers kept careful records about celestial goings-on, including the motions of Mercury, Venus, the Sun, and the Moon, which survived from tablets dating from 1700 to 1681 BC. Later records identified a total solar eclipse on July 31, 1063 BC that turned day into night, and the famous eclipse of June 15, 763 BC, recorded by Assyrian observers in Nineveh. Babylonian astronomers are credited with having discovered a 223-month period for lunar eclipses. In ancient Egypt, nearly all of what we know about this civilization's astronomical knowledge comes to us from tomb paintings, a variety of temple inscriptions, and literally a handful of papyrus documents such as the Rhind Papyrus. Sadly, the Great Library in Alexandria was burned at the time of Cleopatra and Julius Caesar, and later burnings in 390 AD and 640 AD destroyed by one estimate over 400,000 books on Egyptian secular literature, mathematics, medicine, and astronomy. It is classified as the greatest intellectual catastrophe in human history. One can only guess what Egyptian astronomical knowledge may have been lost. All that now survives are fragments, which some scholars see as merely the faded ghosts of what may have been the true Egyptian legacy. The oldest known example of a sundial dates from Egypt, circa 1500 BC. The fabulous astronomical ceiling of Senmut was painted around 1460 BC, which included celestial objects such as Orion, Sirius, and the planets Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn. The oldest known copies of an almanac date from 1220 BC at the time of Ramses the Great, and later in 1100 BC. Amenhotep wrote the Catalogue of the Universe, in which he identifies the major constellations known by that time. Curiously, this catalogue did not mention either Sirius nor any of the planets previously known to the Egyptians. At least outwardly, there are no surviving inscriptions or documents that Egyptian astronomical knowledge is more than tomb decoration, and not very carefully husbanded over the ages as a body of knowledge. Despite a number of temple and pyramid alignments and several papyrus codices suggesting a sophisticated knowledge of trigonometry and even algebra, no similar astronomical documents have survived or records of astronomical observations. The Vienna Papyrus, which describes lunar and solar eclipses and their portents, was probably copied by a scribe in the late 2nd century AD and presents astronomical knowledge that is regarded as essentially Babylonian in nature. By 700 BC, the Greek civilization was in its ascendancy. The historian Herodotus, circa 600 BC, mentions that Thales was able to predict the year when a total solar eclipse could occur, but the details upon what this prediction was based does not survive. The eclipses in question occurred in either 610 or 585 BC. Apparently, the method used worked only once, since that is known of Greek scientific history does not suggest that the method was ever reliably used again. Thales is said to have visited Egypt, and from the empirical rules in there and used there for land surveying, brought back to Greece the ideas of deductive geometry, later codified by Euclid. Prior to 450 BC, Meton realized that single period of 235 lunar months which is interesting because 23.5 is the tilt of the axis, or better yet, 23.4. And if you divide it by 90, which is right angle, you get 66.6. 19 years would cause the popular lunar calendar to return to synchrony with the solar seasonal calendar. At this time, the same lunar phase would be recorded at the same time of the solar calendar year. This period also gives a rough guide to what a lunar eclipse when a lunar eclipse will reoccur at the same geographic location. Ptolemy, which is circa 150 BC, represents the epitome of Grecian astronomy, and surviving records show that he had a sophisticated scheme for predicting both lunar and solar eclipses. Ptolemy knew, for example, the details of the orbit of the moon, including its nodal points, that the sun must be within 20 d 41 feet of the node point, and that up to 2 solar eclipses could occur within 7 months in the same part of the world. Lunar eclipses were especially easy to calculate because of the vast area covered by the Earth's shadow on the moon. Solar eclipses, however, require much greater finesse and knowledge. The shadow of the moon on the Earth is less than 100 kilometers wide, and its track across the daytime hemisphere is the result of many complex factors that cannot be anticipated without nearly complete understanding of the lunar orbit and speed. Yet, those that didn't even think about or calculate the lunar orbit and speed, which is the ancient Maya, also the ancient Chinese, and the ancient Greeks, they thought the world, that the Earth was a flat plane, and that nothing was spinning or moving through the so-called outer space. They were able to do it, but the Greeks, you're saying they couldn't? It's a little bit weird for me, you know. Arabic astronomy became the Western world's powerhouse of scientific research during the 9th and 10th centuries AD. While the Dark Ages engulfed much of the rest of the Western world, the works by Ptolemy and Aristotle were translated and amplified upon and spread throughout the Muslim world. And Muhammad al-Battani, circa 850 AD, began with Ptolemy's works and blah, 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 blah. Let's see. Oh, and they say there's no mention of recorded total solar eclipses or discussions in the codex for how to predict these events. Unfortunately, that is wrong, because you can talk to the Brickers, which we just read not 10, 15, 20 minutes ago. Okay, all this is just junk. But anyways, you get the idea. So all these ancient civilizations, they seem to be very good at predicting things, especially things that occur out in the celestial heavens, up in the sky. And that's just gonna. Oh, did they just get rid of something? When did they do that? Oh, I see. Anyways, that's it for tonight. 35 minutes, keeping it short. You can stay tuned with things that I'm gonna do live for at least for a week, and that is the American robins. Surprisingly, instead of 3 eggs, there are 4 eggs in the nest, and the American robin parents are gonna be one busy parents for next week until their little hatchlings, their little chicks, are going to grow up and fly out of that nest. And me and my daughter had a conversation what would happen if one of the birds fell off the nest, and we said, well, she was saying, well, we would just make another nest for it to live off, and we would feed it and stuff like that. We'll see what happens. Hopefully the American robins will be safe. And what's interesting, and again, I am observing nature a lot more for any signs that I can read into. What's interesting is the nest is built off of a column that faces south. So the American robins made it a point to block the north side, exactly north. They used the column to block the north wind. And interestingly enough, here in Columbus, Nebraska, the north wind is the strongest of the winds. When there's a storm or if it's a windy day, yeah, that wind is going to come from the north. The American robins, they factored that in. They could have picked any of the columns and any of the, what is that called, where the water runs off from the roof, the gutter drains. They could use any of the other gutter drains that are facing any other direction. Yet they chose to protect themselves from the north side. I want to observe that from anywhere else. Apparently the north wind has always been the worst wind. I'll have to look into that. And then the 4 colors of the cardinal directions from the Mayans. I'm going to be looking into that. Anyways, thank you for joining me tonight. You guys can join me on the live feed with the American Robins. I'm hoping to get more of a 4K resolution, but the 1080p is awfully still pretty good. I would love to see the chicks hatch in real time and catch that on a live feed. But who knows? Maybe that won't happen. But still, it's fun just watching them grow up. All right. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you at another time.